Good morning.
Morning.
Oh, you are awake. That's good. By golly, you gotta be awake. So this is really cool for me, and actually I'm really impressed to be part of the Veritas team, and amazed that Rick and Paul and the whole crew here have had the foresight to realize how important this topic is. And sustainability was actually Terry Daynard who first kind of hit us over the head with sustainability. And the big challenge with sustainability is that if we as agricultural people don't steer the ship, you know who's going to steer the ship? It's going to be Walmart, or it's going to be the Ministry of the Environment and Climate Change, or it's going to be somebody that we don't want to steer the ship. And I think that's a really important thing to stick in your brain and say, by golly, we want to be able to do things well. We want to be able to continue to farm. And so we need to define what sustainability really is. So it's up to us. And that's what this whole project is about. And I really think that you have to kind of step back and say, you know, the way we used to farm isn't good enough. So we used to go out there and broadcast on 200 pounds of fertilizer, and that was it for the year, and that worked for a lot of years. With what's happening today, we absolutely have to be ready to change. And so this whole focus is on what is the right change and how do we make that change work for farmers. And I'm really excited to be a part of that. I think you're going to see some amazing stuff today. It's going to put it in perspective for you. And we're going to figure this out. And hopefully we can figure this out and stay ahead of the curve before they write legislation or before somebody else tells us what we're going to do. So that's what the focus of the day is. We're going to start off. We have an excellent lineup of speakers. Our first speaker is Mark Brock.
I think it really comes down to how do you balance agronomics with societal concerns, and then what does it mean on my farm? But it really comes down to a balancing act. And I don't have an answer for that first question, where how do you balance agronomics and economics with societal demands? I think a prime example is this new Class 12 neonic regulation that's out there. You have special interest groups that were concerned about the impact the pesticide was having on the environment, and specifically the pollinators. And from November of last year to July 1st, we went through a discussion paper, a draft regulation, and now we have a regulation in place. That's freaking fast, and it's scary. And it's scary how fast government can move when they want to move. So that's some of the concern that I have. And just some consumer groups, the question is, how much scrutiny are we under? We're under a tremendous amount of scrutiny. People are looking at everything we do under a microscope. I get nervous when I see a white car with Ontario on the side driving by my farm because I'm not sure what they're looking for. And some of that scrutiny, we're under a pile of it, and I think when you see the algae blooms in the Great Lakes and Lake Erie, that just adds to this level of scrutiny. And I'd love to think we can keep doing what we're always doing, but we're going to be forced to change. How much that change is going to be, I don't know, and I think we have to try to influence that as much as possible. Some of those days are over.
For everybody, what Mark points out is that the mindset has to change. So we all have these bumper stickers that say, if you ate today, thank a farmer. And I think Dave McEachran phrased it best, if you farmed today, thank a consumer. So it's a change in mindset, this whole social license. We have to get back. It used to be that farmers were accepted. We were good guys. We rated above doctors, for crying out loud. They have great trust in us. That trust is just disappearing way faster than we want it to. So whatever you call it, Phil, whether it's social license or social contract, we need to change that mindset, and we need to start showing the consumer that we are doing the right thing, and I think that's really where we're at. So thank you very much, Mark, and we'll carry on.
Thanks.
Our next speaker now we have the broad scale, right? We've kind of set the stage with where we're at, and Mark, touched on neonics, which is a real example of how we didn't get ahead of the curve. So now we need to get into the specifics where we maybe have a chance to get ahead of the curve and actually have some impact and put together this whole social license, if you will, around nutrients and what's happening in the Great Lakes. So that's going to be the focus of the rest of the day. Our next speaker is Dr. Maren McCrae. Maren is out of the University of Waterloo. She's one of the foremost researchers in Ontario on phosphorus research, in particular in tile drainage water. Welcome, Maren.
I guess the first question is, what is causing the algal bloom? So I'm going to talk a little bit about the science behind the issues and the science behind the solutions. So in terms of what is causing the algal blooms, I don't know if you can see the picture in the top right corner, but it's a very famous picture that was done based on research that was done in the 70s by David Schindler in the experimental lakes area. And essentially, what they did is they fertilized different sides of lakes in enrichment experiments where they spiked them with fertilizers. And they used nitrogen and they used phosphorus. And what they found is that the side that they added the phosphorus to, which is that very bright green, absolutely bloomed. Okay? And so because of that, we now have a pretty keen understanding that in a lot of our large lakes and our inland lakes, that phosphorus is a big driver. You're definitely going to hear people talking about nitrogen. You're going to hear people talking about phosphorus. When we start to talk about the Gulf and the hypoxia, it's really about nitrogen. And certainly both nitrogen and phosphorus are problems, but in Lake Erie, they really feel that phosphorus is the game changer. Okay, so what does the phosphorus do? The same things that you add to your plants, nitrogen, phosphorus, organic matter, these are things that help plants grow. Well, the phosphorus also fertilizes the algae. The algae behaves a bit like a plant. So when that phosphorus ends up in the lake, the algae grows and they bloom, and that's what you're seeing. Those vast swaths of green are algal blooms. And so of course this degrades our lake. So where is that phosphorus coming from? Well, some of it is urban, we know that, but some of it is also in agriculture, and of course we're hearing in the media lots of finger pointing at agriculture. We have to do our bit. Everybody has to do their part. So the question is, what can we in agriculture do to reduce our phosphorus losses? So in order to start to come up with creative solutions that are going to work, one thing that you have to learn is how is phosphorus actually lost from the field. So let's look at the science. Something that's really starting to catch on in terms of affecting water quality in agricultural systems is the concept of preferential transport or macropores. Has anybody heard those words before? Anyone? A few of you? Okay. So again, you can't see it, but essentially what we have in a lot of systems is wormholes or cracks. When clays dry and shrink and have cracks, or you have worm burrows or biopores of any sort in the soil, sometimes those things can really connect the surface to your tile drain, and they become a pathway, an open pipe vertically in the soil that routes that rich surface runoff right into the tile and right out of your system and into your ditches. Just really, this is the last thing I want to talk about, is strip tillage potential. So strip tillage is an interesting approach because it really has the potential to reduce phosphorus loss. Why? Well, first of all, in the areas that they're tilling, it breaks up those preferential pathways in the subsurface and it incorporates that fertilizer. And the phosphorus, of course, is only applied in those tilled zones, and it's not applied on the no-till. So the tilled strips, you're not going to get the losses to surface or to subsurface and tile drainage. On the other hand, the no-till strips provide the benefit of improved soil organic matter, the vegetation and residue that might slow down that water and help basically deposit or maintain that phosphorus on the surface. And so it seems to be that it may be the best of both worlds and an innovative approach to lessening phosphorus losses from the landscape by sort of using a hybrid between these two. You have the benefit at the surface and in the subsurface, and maybe less phosphorus overall applied and less phosphorus lost.
Paint it any way you want. It's both. But those algal blooms in Lake Erie, when they see them, they go to the cottage, they go to the beach, they can't swim because of the algae. It's agriculture they think of first. So a really complex issue, but we have to do something about it. I hope you're sort of getting the concept of how complex this issue is, and the fact that we have to take the bull by the horns, and that strip till is one of the ways that we think, not great research yet, but we think we can start to address this. So up next, our next speaker is Ken Nixon. Ken farms with his brother Kevin and his dad George near Ilderton. I've worked with Ken for a lot of years. They parked the plow in 1992. They went straight no-till. That wasn't just working perfectly for them. And they got into strip tillage. Ken is one of the foremost innovators on strip tillage and has lots of experience. So Ken, if you could come and tell us exactly what you're doing and why you made those choices, we'll learn.
Good morning. First of all, organic matter is the holy grail of crop agriculture. If you have organic matter, you have the world by the tuckus. If you don't, you're wishing you had it. And every time we till, we oxidize organic matter. So our goal was to reduce the amount of tillage so that we could conserve our organic matter. This year with that frost on the 23rd of May up in our part of the world, I took a lot of damage in my strip till stuff. And so I'm probably going to not be in the top echelon in the neighborhood. However, 2 years ago in 2012, we had a horrendously dry patch up in our part of the world, and I was 30 and 40 bushel ahead of a lot of neighbors, just because of the water holding capability and the cooler soil and everything else. So over the long haul, and we do a fair bit of custom combining across various soil types and tillage, I am very comfortable with my yields. So if I had to pick between a vertical tillage pass, which is going to disturb the whole width of the soil and only a couple inches deep, versus a strip till pass where you only disturb a little bit of it and leave everything else undisturbed, I will pick the strip till pass hands down every day, twice on Sunday.
You can see where we're going with this, and it's obvious with the soil warrior out there, and from what Marin said and what Ken said, we really think that strip tillage has a fit in making this balance that Mark talked about between the environment and also production agriculture. Because you know that I'm a production agronomist. I want big yield agriculture. That's where we have to be if we're going to feed whatever billion people there's going to be in 2050, whatever number you want to believe.
My name is Derek Smith. I'm with ETS, the Precision Ag Account Manager. We're based in Faribault, Minnesota. What we have here is our Soil Warrior 16-row unit. What this is going to be doing, it's full RTK, both tractor and Soil Warrior. We have steerable carts on here. The depths we're going to be obtaining is anywhere from 2 to 5 inches of depth. We have our wavy coulter system. There's no shanks on our Soil Warrior. And then we have our big containment cogs and the rolling basket on the end to really make a nice zone. What we discussed today was the sustainability program that Southwest Ag is putting on. ETS and Southwest Ag have now partnered to push forth the sustainability program with the Soil Warrior and the strip tilling practice that it can do.
I felt that all the presenters in the tent were very good at bringing up some of the pertinent issues that we have in agriculture today, specifically, new innovative way of doing things from an environmentally sustainable manner.
There's a good selection, a group there, from the university side of things right to the practical side, and the guys that have got the 10, 20 years experience doing it.
I think they did a good job displaying it. I think the conditions here were ideal, so it showed well. I think there's going to be a lot of interest in this machine. I think a lot of people want to try strip till, and this gives them a little bit of an advantage that they don't have to go out and invest in a unit. They can try it on their own farm and see how it pans out.
The benefits of using the Soil Warrior for the strip tilling practice is we're only disturbing about 33% of the ground. So we're leaving that rest of the ground undisturbed, so you get the benefits of full tillage and the benefits of no-till. We're going to leave that residue in the no-till parts. We're going to till up that ground, we're going to warm it up, we're going to freshen it up come springtime.
I do like the idea of a shank in the fall, but it would have to be a removable shank so that we could get that second pass in the spring, strictly coulters. This system gives you that variability to go spring or fall if conditions require it.
The benefits of using this over like a conventional tillage system in the past is the erosion practice that you can get with no-till. You're going to not see that with the strip tillage because we're going to do both strip tilling, full tillage in the zones, and no-till on the side. And we're going to incorporate that fertilizer and blend it throughout the zone, so we're going to get a lot more fertilizer efficiency out of this.
To me, it's all a question of agricultural economics, okay? So if I can do something more efficiently, gain more yield through reducing total cost and possibly being more environmentally friendly at the same time, that's a good thing. But of course, the litmus test is the agricultural economic viability.
ETS as itself stands behind their product. We're fully dedicated to strip tillage. We only make strip till equipment at ETS, And you'll find that if you talk to the sales guys, the service guys at ETS, we're very passionate about our strip tillage.
Personally, I think there's room for it on our farm, and like to try it that way. They're really good to work with us and have, you know, spreaders ready for us. That's the benefit that we need from the local branch.
It was worth my time coming out today.
I've been a swag customer for, my goodness, over 30 years or so, long time.
I just want to thank Southwest Ag for inviting us up here. It's an honor to be partnering with them, pushing forth the sustainability program. The presentations were great. Thank you to all the speakers that were here. And we look forward to this fall season in the spring.
It really does give us a chance to lead the way and come up with the answers. And let me tell you, we don't have all the answers. We think we have some potential for answers in this. We are going to go out on 10 fields in Ontario and we are going to study them to death. But we're going to figure this thing out. And we're going to find ways that you can still be the 240 bushel per acre corn grower, and you can replace that phosphorus, and the lake won't go green, so my sister can still go swimming and not beat me up every time I see her on the weekend over the summer.